What we're going to start with today is what I would call the innovator. His name is Mr. Randolph III. He's president and founder of Shieldwood Strongholds. He's also the president and founder of, Shieldwood Strongholds is a fractional CFO company that specializes in providing business and franchise owners with all the perks and benefits of having a full-time CFO and business succession planner, but for a fraction of the price. He's a partner and consultant with the Franchise Consulting Company, the largest American-owned franchise consulting company in the world. He's the author of the forthcoming financial literacy book, The Miracle Money Vehicle, How to Make Money Make Babies. This gives individuals and business owners a step-by-step guide on what they need to do to have the option to retire or exit their current position in less than 5 to 10 years, properly structured and funded trusts and tax strategies. Also, he's the host of the Entrepreneurship podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. Ranked in the top 10% of podcasts for business owners and entrepreneurs by listeners.com. Join me all and give him a warm welcome to Mr. Randolph III.
Hello. And it's the Entrepreneurship podcast. It's a play on words. It's a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. You know, I gotta do something to get people to listen to me. And just so you know, on my way here, I was trying to think of what's a clever way for me to garner instant rapport with my audience, and thereby making it more likely that you listen to me and maybe even do business with me in the future. And I thought maybe I'd try this. T-U? That worked better than I thought it would. But just so you know, my name is Randolph Love, like you said. Thank you so much. Tuskegee University is definitely historically a very sound and very known name throughout the United States, throughout the world actually. And Booker T. Washington, the 28th annual Booker T. Washington Economic Development Summit, I definitely appreciate you for being here. All right, I truly believe that all truths are parallel. Has anybody ever heard that before? What that means is what's usually workable in one facet of life is workable in another facet of life, right? What works there works here. Before you eat something, you should know where it comes from, right? Before you drink something, you should know where it comes from. The same goes before you put something in your mind, you should know where you come from. Just so you know that I am a registered, I do pre-licensing and continuing education for companies. I've been doing it, I did it for maybe 1,000 adult students over the past 2 years, and I can barely see out of this show. But just so you know, these are the goggles that I'm going to show you, all right? All this steam got in my eyes, and so I got to be able to see them. But just so you know, I'm a registered pre-licensing and continuing education provider with the Florida Department of Financial Services. I provide training and consultation for corporate, federal, state, and local governing agencies. I assist individuals and business owners with tax minimization planning. I am a partner and consultant with the Franchise Consulting Company, and I've been doing this for over a decade. I know I seem young. I started as selling insurance back in my 20s, and I retired at 31. I recreated for a year, but what happens when you recreate? Anybody knows what happens when you recreate? You recreate. I think words are very, very powerful, and words aren't an accident. So once I realized that the reason why a lot of people did not have the situation that I had is because they did not know, that's when I figured out that I need to start educating people on it. So here's the disclaimer. Of course, I have to do a disclaimer, right? I am not an attorney, right? And this is information, not advice. I'm going to say this is information, you say this is, I'm going to say this is information, you say not advice. This is information? Not advice. This is information? Not advice. Y'all not about to sue me. All right, so if you were here yesterday, you should have received one of these. Basically, it breaks down how very successful families keep the money going, all right? I think a lot of you are business owners in here because this is the Economic Development Summit. However, I know some of you are not. But did anybody know that the tax code was created to help business owners, not individuals? So even if you don't own a day-to-day business, it's best that you learn how these people do it, all right? One of my mentors, I want to tell you about it. Has anybody ever heard of a small company called ClickFunnels? It's a marketing company worth over $500 million, right? It's run by Russell Brunson. My business partner, a person that I meet with every month, a person that's educating me, is his father, Ross Brunson. And as the twig bends, so grows the tree. And Ross taught me what he taught Russell. He said, people hate to be inconvenienced by weather, right? They hate it. They hate the rain. They hate the hail. They hate the snow. So what did they do to keep them from being inconvenienced by this weather? They built a structure over them. But they didn't just build a structure that has one room in it, right? They got a kitchen to cook things in. They got an entertainment room to entertain their guests in whenever they come into town, right? They have a bathroom to clean themselves in. They have a bedroom to sleep in. You're not going to relieve yourself in the kitchen, are you? You're not going to cook anything in a bathroom. You're not going to entertain someone in your bedroom. I guess it depends on who you entertain. Right? But you get what I'm saying. Every room has its own function. What I said, all truths are parallel. The same goes for business entities. Most of y'all know about LLC, limited liability company. Who in here has a limited liability company, LLC? Right? Now here's the thing. LLCs are good at doing what it says it does. LLCs are good at limiting your liability. But I'm almost positive a lot of you have what's called a single member LLC. And what that means is, if you get sued, how hard is it going to be for them to show that you're using business money for personal and personal for business? It's going to be real easy. And what they're going to do is they're going to pierce the corporate veil, right? So, yes, all right, single member LLC, that's titled in your name, they're going to pierce the corporate veil. All right, but let's say that, for whatever reason, that the LLC does what it's supposed to do, and you have it set up the right way. Even if it limits your liability, does it help you with taxes? No, because it's considered a pass-through entity, all right? So all this money is coming in. You earn $500,000, and then they're going to tax you twice. They're going to tax you income tax, and they're going to tax you self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is 15.3% of all of your earnings. So some people, y'all might be very familiar with taxes, and you're going to say, well, they're only going to tax you that extra 15.3% up to approximately $160,000. That used to be true. Now what they do is, after you reach that threshold, they still keep taxing you 2.9%. That 15.3% is made up of your Social Security and your Medicare. Does anybody know that as long as you made at least $4,000 a year over the past 10 years that you already fully funded your Social Security? And it doesn't have to be consecutive. If at any point in the past 10 years you made at least $4,000 and you contributed to Social Security, you already fully funded your Social Security. So what that means is all that extra money is what? Gravy. Y'all want to keep giving them gravy? I know it's good, but are they handling your money correctly? Even if you believe in paying taxes, even if you know that it's a reason for it, and I believe it's a reason for it as well. I met some very good people here in the city of Tuskegee and the county of Macon that definitely knows how to spend this money and help y'all out, right? But when I'm talking about the federal government, why do you want to keep giving it to people who maybe might be mishandling your funds, right? So what you're going to do is that single member LLC, instead of putting it in your personal name, you create what's called a holding company. Now this holding company does no business with the public. Why is it important that your holding company do no business with the public? Listen, I've been around this area for a while. Y'all know what usually happens when you're dealing with bad actors? people who feel like maybe you shouldn't be as successful as you are, and maybe they might fall on accident, right? You don't want to deal with those bad actors. You don't want to deal with those frivolous lawsuit people. So what you do is you do no business with the public with your holding company, and your LLC, that's a holding company. So instead of you having a single member LLC with your personal name on it, you have a single member LLC that's owned and managed by your holding company. And this holding company is going to be an LLC treated as S Corp. Has anybody ever heard of an LLC treated as S Corp? Why do we do LLC treated as S Corp? When you do LLC treated as S Corp, and first, because I don't really just like just doing S Corp, right? Because now you got to do all these regulations, you got to have all these meetings, you got to get this board. I want the simplicity of the LLC, but I want that tax treatment of an S Corp. And LLC treated as S Corp allows you to separate your active income from your passive income. What the government has decided is if your money is making money, it doesn't need Social Security. If your money is making money, it doesn't need Medicare. So let's say you earn $500,000 a year with your LLC. You can say, I'm paying myself as an employee $60,000. The other $440,000, that's just what I'm receiving as an investor in my company. How many of y'all use your own personal money to start your business? Guess what? You are an investor in your company. And therefore, you should get the benefits of being an investor in your company. You should be able to earn money without the liability and without the additional taxes. Because what happens is, after you reach that threshold of approximately $160,000, yes, they're going to cut off that Social Security, but they're still going to keep charging you 2.9% for Medicare, right? Medicare, is it good? Y'all like it? Maybe. All right. There are better options. We can talk about it if we ever work together, right? But it's something, right? But so after that 2.9%, if you are single, after you reach that $200,000 threshold, they're going to charge you additional 0.9% of all your money on top of that 2.9%. If you are married and you reach that $250,000 threshold, they're going to charge you an additional 0.9% on top of that 2.9%. But what if you're married filing separately? If you're married filing separately, what they do is they start charging you that extra 0.9% at $125,000. Because the way they say it is, you're choosing not to get this benefit of married filing jointly. So since you're doing married filing separately, once you get $125,000, they're going to charge you more. The government treats married filing separately like lepers, right? Okay. So now that you realize the benefit of having an LLC treated as S Corp allows you to separate your active income from your passive income, right? And then you got that silo of having an LLC that does business directly with the public, not owned by your name personally, but owned by your business. Why do we do that? So a lot of y'all are familiar with if you do something and you cause liability with somebody with your LLC, then you're limited liability only to the assets that's inside your LLC. But what if you're just driving one day, you get into an accident, and the baby dies in the other car? That's easily $1 million judgment against you. So what do they do when you can't pay a judgment against you? They go after everything you own. So yes, you protected yourself with the LLC, but because you as a person got into that accident, now that LLC is potentially going to get liquidated, right? However, because your holding company owns your LLC, and the LLC that's your holding company is an LLC treated as S Corp, limited liability, limited taxes. Now, after you've taken care of your liability and your taxes, you do what's called a capital contribution. You're going to pick a state that allows you to start an entity that does not have your personal name on it, that does not have your address on it. If you look up my name, I own relatively nothing. If you look up my business, it's owned by a holding company. But you're not going to find my family bank. Now, a lot of people don't know about this entity. It's called an LLLP, a limited liability limited partnership. You can ask your CPA about this. They probably don't even know this exists. But it's a real entity. And what you do is you domicile your entity, your LLLP, in a state that allows you, once again, your personal name isn't on it, your address isn't on it. Nobody can find it. However, and once again, we're not doing this to take advantage of people. We're doing this to protect ourselves from the frivolous lawsuits. Okay? And once again, this is about generational wealth. You can't start talking about passing on wealth from generations if it gets taken before you even go. So it's all about taking care of the foundation first. You have to secure your foundation before you start talking about a chandelier in the foyer. Do y'all agree? Y'all get that reference? Okay. So why do I domicile my company, my family bank, and that's what I call it. And I'm gonna let y'all know a good state to domicile your family bank in. Wyoming. Why do a lot of wealthy people domicile their family banks in Wyoming? Once again, not only is it private, but Wyoming does what's called only charging orders. So whenever you get sued and then there's a judgment against you, a judge can issue charging orders or foreclosure, right? What they say is, hey, you just lost this $1 million lawsuit, right? And you owe this $1 million. And then if you do not pay this $1 million that you owe, then the judge can order a foreclosure on all of your assets. Wyoming doesn't do foreclosure. Wyoming only does charging orders. So what that means is, if by chance somebody finds your family bank that's domiciled in Wyoming, this is the first thing that's going to happen. Usually when somebody sues you, they're going to go to the attorney first. The attorney is going to look you up, and then when they see you have deep pockets, what they do is they take the case on contingency. Does anybody know what contingency means? It means the attorney is going to work for free in hopes that they're going to win a big judgment, and then they're going to take their percentage on the back end. When they find your family bank, your LLLP domiciled in Wyoming, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to that person that's trying to sue you and say, hey, we can still go through with the lawsuit, but I can't work on contingency right now. I have to charge a retainer. Why do y'all think that attorney is now charging a retainer? They trying to get what they can get, because they know that it's very likely that they're not going to succeed in getting this money from you based off how the entity that you have set up and where you have it domiciled. So 90% of all people who are trying to sue you frivolously, they're going to leave once they realize that they can't hire an attorney for free. So you say that. But let's say that they do proceed, right? And they do pay this attorney this retainer. And they are successful in suing you, and you get $1 million judgment. Guess what happens? You get what they call a second bite at the apple. Because what happens is, when this attorney, when they win, they say, hey, I lost a lawsuit. You got me, right? Yes, you have $1 million lawsuit, but as you can see, my company is domiciled in Wyoming. And as you know, the judge is only able to issue charging orders. And as you know, because of that, I only have to pay you if I make a distribution from my company. But I can borrow from my company indefinitely and never have to pay you a dime. That said, why don't we go ahead and renegotiate? Yes, you won that $1 million lawsuit, but if you send me a release, we can settle out. We can settle this right now for $100,000. And guess what that attorney is going to do most likely? They're going to take it, because a percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing, right? So you have an LLC to protect you against liability. Your LLC is what does business with the public. Your LLC is a single member LLC, but instead of it being your personal name, it's going to be an LLC treated as S corp. It's an LLC treated as S corp because it allows you to separate your active income from your passive income. Then you're going to make a capital contribution after you pay all of your tax obligations to your family bank, your LLLP that's domiciled in Wyoming. And one of the benefits of the LLLP is it allows you to separate your limited partners from your general partners. Anybody familiar with the difference between limited and general partners? Guess what? The general partner makes all the decisions, but they take on all of the liability, right? If you look at this, and you probably can't see it, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get this document if you can't see it. But guess who is the 99% limited partner, limited owner of your LLLP? Your LLC treated as S corp. Guess who's the 1% general partner? Keep guessing. You'll never know because my general partner is on my private operating agreements. But in all my private operating agreements, my family trust is the general partner. Once again, nobody knows where my trust is. Nobody knows where the name of my trust. Nobody should ever know what the name of your trust is unless they absolutely have to. And even when the trust is created for you and you have to open up an account or do some business with your trust, you have what's called a certificate of trust that allows you to move around without them seeing all the things that's inside of your trust. But guess what? Not only does my LLLP, my family bank, own all of my passive income producing properties, my land, right? My properties, all of my passive income producing, but guess what? It also owns my bank accounts. It owns my brokerage accounts. It owns my gold. It owns all of my cash value life insurance. Why am I doing that? Because guess what? If I'm ever in a supplemental proceeding and they're asking me, Mr. Love, do you have any bank accounts? No. Mr. Love, do you own any land? No. Mr. Love, do you own any gold? Do you own any silver? No. Why? Because it's another entity that owns it, not me, right? And once again, inside of your private operating agreement, who owns not even your active income producing business and your passive income producing? Your trust. So not only did you protect yourself against taxes, not only did you protect yourself against liability, but because you have these operating agreements that control both sides of your life, you just did estate planning. Because what precedes you after death? Businesses. And now you don't have to deal with attorneys. You don't have to deal with courts. You don't have to deal with probate because you already set it up while you were alive. Not only did you help yourself, but then you help your family for when you're gone. Right? And then in that trust, of course, you can determine who gets what and how and all that good stuff, right? Now, that's just the first part. If you want a copy of this, just text Legacy24 to 904-822-4262. Text Legacy24 to 904-822-4262. No spaces, no dashes, and I'll send you a copy of that document, okay? So, once again, say go back. Legacy24, no spaces, no dashes, to 904-822-4262. All right? Oh, yes, sir. Do you think? Now, once again, like I said, you can't talk about generational wealth if you die broke. Does this look familiar to anybody? Here's a trivia question. You got two couples. Both have $500,000 in investment. Both are withdrawing 5% every year. Both are getting an average return of 6% every year. Each has an inflation adjustment of 3% each year. But at the age of 78, one married couple has negative $12,143 and the other married couple has a positive $1,132,964. Does anybody know how that's possible? I'm going to explain it. Why is one couple broke? Why does one have double their investment? And I'm going to tell y'all, who's the worst business partner? What if I told you this? I heard you. You man got a lot of, man, you've been through it, right? You probably hired and fired how many family members? You don't want to talk about it. Who's the worst business partner? What if I told you, Mr. Mayor, let's go into business together, but I want you to build all the relationships. I want you to take on all of the risks. I want you to kiss all the babies, shake all the hands. And when it's all said and done, I won't have. You don't know about that. That's a very political answer. He didn't give no yes, no. He said, I don't know about it. Right? How about this? What if I say, not only do I want half, I want the right to change my mind with how much you owe me at any time. Anybody want that business partner? An IRA is an IOU. And I'm not just talking about IRAs, I'm talking about traditional 401ks, I'm talking about thrift savings plans, I'm talking about 403bs. If you actually print out your qualified retirement accounts and you look at it over a long period of time, guess what you'll see? You've been losing approximately 30 to 40% of your principal every 3 to 4 years. But you don't realize that. And when you actually see it while you're alive, anybody here has ever left a job and then they left their 401k with that job and then they went to another job? Don't it look like that 401k keep getting smaller and smaller because you're no longer contributing to it anymore? Out of 100 people, only 5 retire independently wealthy. 35 never make it to retirement age, and the rest are dependent upon the welfare of family and friends. What do you think those people were contributing to? Right? And I'm going to show you how taxes can adversely affect you using a illustration. If you take $1 and you double it every day for 20 days, did you know that $1 turns into $1,048,576 But guess what happens when you add a 25% tax bracket? That dollar just crashed dramatically to $72,570.64. What if you add a 33% tax bracket? Because there's a lot of successful people in here. Some of y'all are probably paying the highest tax bracket. It just crashed to $27,362.05. Now, I know what some of you are saying, well, good thing I don't have a traditional retirement account, I have a Roth. And listen, that's better than the traditional, but it is what it is. And if anybody don't know what a Roth is, if you take anything away from what I say and you still continue down the path of traditional advice, even though it didn't help the generation before you, even though it didn't help the generation before that, if you still follow down the traditional investment advice, at the very least, switch your traditional retirement account to a Roth. A lot of y'all are farmers. Let me ask you this. Would you rather pay taxes on a handful of seeds or a field full of crops? Which one? I'd rather pay taxes on the seeds. All truths are parallel. When you choose to contribute to a traditional qualified retirement account in hopes that your taxes are going to be lower in retirement than it is now, that's the equivalent of paying taxes on the crop instead of the seeds. Anybody, if you ever actually look at it, your financial advisor told you that your taxes are going to be lower when you retire. But here's what happens typically with people. When you retire, you're no longer contributing to a qualified retirement account. There goes that tax credit. Usually when people retire, you're no longer paying on a mortgage. There goes that tax credit. You end up paying the same tax rate, if not higher, in retirement than you did while you were actively working. It's the truth. But they don't tell you this, right? You actually have to look at it. So at the very least, if you still continue down the traditional way of investing your money, call your company and tell them you want to switch to a Roth. At the very least, pay taxes on the seeds, right? So who would rather pay the most possible taxes or the least possible taxes after learning all this? The least. And here's that couple. And here's how it's made up. Has anybody ever heard of required minimum distributions? What that means is, so some people, they try to get smart. So you're taxing me on my Social Security, and you tax me all this money because I'm pulling from my qualified retirement? All right, I'm just not going to pull from it. Guess what the government says? No. You have to pull a very qualified minimum, and let me know when I'm reaching my limit. I appreciate it. You have to pull a required minimum amount, and then we tax you. And guess what? Does anybody else know that your Social Security is able to get taxed up to 85%? A lot of y'all don't know that's what's coming for you. A lot of people think that when you retire, when you get your Social Security, it's going to be tax-free. No. Depending on how you have everything set up, your Social Security can be taxed up to 85%. So this is how it looks. You have a choice right now. And I'm going to tell you the advice that a lot of the wealthy people that I work with, myself included, and my mentors that taught me, is you have to figure out how to make the money that you are getting in retirement not be considered income. Got 5 minutes. And I don't know, it couldn't have worked out any perfect, y'all. I really want to go into detail about how we do this, right? But I'm going to ask you one more question. Do you think taxes are going to be lower or higher in the future? Everything that goes up must come down, except taxes. So, Miss Colorful Williams, she's putting on what we're doing on September 24th. It's a free lunch and learn. It's a free lunch and learn at the CDC Art Consortium. I'm going to go in detail how we're able to convert your income to where it's not considered income, to where you're not like that couple that ends up in debt at a certain age, to where you have tax-free income and you're receiving your Social Security 100% tax-free. But I don't want to, monopolize and take up the time. If y'all want to be a part of that, she does have a doc paper that you can sign up. Once again, it's free. And all you have to do is scan and sign up, and I will be going into a lot of detail of how we do that and how we structure it, but not just you as an individual, for your family, and how you can protect yourself, and not just build wealth for you while you're alive, but generational wealth for the family itself. Does anybody have any questions? And I know y'all got some questions, like I don't want to take up too much time. I only had 30 minutes, and I apologize I spent so much time on that first document. Anybody have any questions? Colorful Williams, the very well-dressed, distinguished women over there. Any questions, anybody?
It's Tuskegee Macon County Community Development Corporation at 608 Diggle Street. And if you come and sign up, money through links there.
All right, y'all. I want to thank you so much. Once again, my name is Randolph Love III. I'm very, very honored to be here with y'all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you more in the future. Have a good day.
All right, can we give Randolph another round of applause? Well, we're going to change modes here. We're going to do this semi-structured, but I know we didn't give my brother Randolph enough time to have questions, so I'm going to bring him back up so he can entertain some questions from the crowd. And then after he's done, we're going to we're going to go into our break prior to our 11:30 session. So I would say, and Randolph is good at working the room, so I'm going to allow him to have the mic and work the room and take questions from you all.
Y'all thought y'all was through with me, huh? And just to, before we start the questions, just to touch on what they were talking about, I work with a lot of people. The wealthiest clients that I work with consistently are the blue collar clients. I work with attorneys, and I do work with some very well-known wealthy attorneys. I'm actually bringing, anybody know who Alexander Shinar is? I'm bringing his business partner here in October, which is Galen Hare, and I'm bringing Galen in February. And Galen and Alex, they are name partners with each other. So, and that's one of my clients. He has a private jet. That's great. But the average attorney earns $80,000 a year. The average doctor earns $150,000 a year. And they both work 80 plus hours a week. Whereas I have my plumbers, my contractors, my electricians, $250,000 plus consistently across the board. So what they're saying is true, right? So any questions?
Question. So when you're talking about how hard is it to switch from a person's current operating system to the one that you were suggesting?
Do you mean literally or emotionally? Literally is very easily. Emotionally is hard because you've been trained for so long that this is what you're supposed to do, and you think you're doing the right thing. Literally is very easy. You just have to rip the Band-Aid off. When you do switch from a taxable strategy to a tax-free strategy, you are going to have to pay some taxes initially. However, it's better to pay a lump sum and then start down the right path than to pay a lot over a long period of time. Any other questions?
And speaking of generational wealth, I like to see it in dumbed down version for families. How can we speak to our families about generational wealth and beginning generational wealth? And what does it take for a young mother or a young father with 3 children, minimum job? How do they begin to build their generational wealth? And they were left with nothing.
So, the way you do it is you start treating your family like a business. It is what it is. When you look at a successful business or a successful city or a successful country, what they have, core values, they have a family, they have a flag, they have a crest that represents them. You treat your family like a business. One thing that families can do immediately, and a lot of times people need to be incentivized. Did y'all know that if you go on a vacation right now with your families, whether you are in business together or not, if y'all go on a vacation and for 90 minutes a day, y'all talk about business. What that means is on your calendars, not on all of your calendars, just you can go to the Bahamas, you can go to Hawaii, you can go to Europe. If you talk about business for 90 minutes a day, the entire family can write it off. So that's how you start. You got to understand psychology. You got to incentivize your family first. Hey y'all, let's go on this good trip. And then, invite somebody like me to just pop up. But, it is one of those things where when you start the cycle of contributing, instead of putting it into a traditional financial vehicle that, once again, it's failed the generation before you, it's failed the generation before them, why keep doing the same exact thing? So once you actually just have somebody, because I'm good at talking to the right side of the brain, when I'm telling you my stories, And then the left side of the brain, when I'm pulling out all of the data and the analytics, you just basically need to treat it like what do they call it, intervention. Invite your family on a vacation. Show them in the tax code how, as long as we spend 90 minutes a day talking about business and strategy, we can write this off. And then bring somebody like me to do a family intervention. Any more questions? Oh.
Just an observation, because I think when we're talking about generational wealth, sometimes we think that's easy. It's something that someone left me or gave me that somehow suddenly appeared from nowhere. So we do have to understand there's work involved, there's maintenance involved, there's that, like you said, that business side of it that we have to educate our folk about and to understand the obligations associated with the carry on of that book. And when we talk about generation, we're talking in itself something for the future, not just us to maybe go on a vacation, but you understand? So, because that's sort of glamorizing it a little bit, but there are things that involve, and we do need to be educated.
It's very intricate things involved with it. When you set up these trusts, and that's one of the things that I help people set up, you have two options. You can do what's called an equal distribution trust or an equal opportunity trust. I learned a long time ago the best thing that you can do for somebody is be somebody. People don't really respond to unsolicited advice. It can be the best advice they've ever received in their life, but because it's unsolicited, they don't get it. What I recommend and what I advise to the people that I work with is let's put your air mask on first, right? Let you operate on how it's supposed to be, right? And then when we set up your trust, let's make it an equal opportunity. What I mean by equal opportunity, it means that all of my people that come after me have access to this, as long as you do this, this, and this. One of the this things is we have to come together every year to educate the family on what we learned over the past year. And we have to go over the things that we learned from our matriarch, our patriarch. We have to go over our family curriculum. Just like this prestigious institution has a curriculum, your family needs to have a curriculum. And anybody that wants access to this generational wealth, you have to meet every year, and we have to discuss the curriculum that works and then bring in new knowledge to the family. So yeah, it does require work. Yes, ma'am. Any more questions? Heard?
Good morning. I'm very impressed with you. I've met you before. Yes. But this financial strategies with your family, the trust and all of that, are you going to address something similar to that on September the 24th? Because I have some family members I would like to invite, and to break it down, you're breaking it down, but they would understand. I can't explain it to them like that. And maybe together with all of us, we could develop a family way of making big money throughout the structure.
One of the things that I'm proud of is my ability to communicate on multiple levels. I grew up in a low-income family. I mean, I didn't know we were poor, but we definitely were, right? How many people didn't realize you were broke till later on, right? All I knew is don't touch the AC. I didn't know why. But if that AC bill was just $50 more that month, it destroyed everything, right? But yeah, to your point, we break it down. We're doing it as a series because just like here, it's hard to put in so much information into a short time. So this will be the first of multiple meetings that we're going to be doing. And yes, please invite your family, and I will explain to them. Once again, for the right side of the brain, I got plenty of stories, and then the left side of the brain, I have plenty of data and analytics to back up what I'm saying. Thank you. And over here.
retirement, the ROC program, and, I don't know too much about stocks and bonds, and it's been sitting there since I retired in 2014. And when COVID came in, like I took a block or something. But I want to know, with your company, will this accumulate my money if I put it on you, and at what %? And then, I heard you say in the first session that you did, tax. Do you know, I was taxed on this money when I worked for this money. And when I put it away and to get it out of my retirement, they taxed me again. I think that's unfair. I don't pay tax on this money. So why do I have to pay tax on my money again? And that's unfair to me.
Double taxation. What taxation without representation? Revolution, right? And that's what we're experiencing. So to answer your question, the reason why your money dropped is because they have it tied into volatile accounts, meaning that, so there are 4 things that your money needs to be when you choose the vehicle that it's in. Most people only look at the rate of return first because that's what you ask people. How much would I make? All right? But rate of return is number 3. First, it must be liquid. It doesn't matter how much your money is earning. If it's earning 100%, 200% a day, if you can't get to it, does that matter? So the most important thing is it has to be liquid. The second thing is it has to be safe. What you're dealing with is when your money is tied into volatile or vehicle, you can go to sleep one night and wake up the next morning and you work 50% less. I remember in 2008, I was working in a warehouse, Winn-Dixie warehouse. The worst job I ever had in my life. Not because I had to do too much. That's the only job that I was ever let go from, right? Because I couldn't keep up. But there were men there that were great at it. They worked there for 40 plus years. And guess what? We did the whole little celebration. I remember it was 2 gentlemen. We did the whole celebration. We had the food, we had the drinks. They got their company watch. And then they left. And then who remember what happened in 2008? They came back the very next week working like we never did anything. So to answer your question, yes, I do have a vehicle to where we can put it in. Now, the average rate of return for a lot of the vehicles that I suggest for people is an average rate of return of 8 to 11%. Now, does that mean that you're not going to get more some years? No. Does that mean that it might be less some years? No. But what it means is if it's put in the right vehicle, you don't lose. As long as you're not getting taxed, and as long as you're not experiencing volatility from the market, 8 to 11% is a lot of money, especially when it's tax-free. And hopefully you can come on the 24th, and I can go into a lot more detail on it. You're welcome. As a matter of fact, I'll do this for you. And if anybody wants a copy of one of these booklets, let me know. Any more questions? Any question? Our booklet. Oh, dang, I set it up. Man, you're so helpful, man. Thank you. Any other questions? And he's passing around. Question. You got a question? Question. If you got a question, raise both hands.
Okay, I'm kind of like you, aged out and didn't show it as much. On the second go around and did pretty well. Rolling that over into something similar to what you're talking about. Your suggestions or how to handle it, other than talking to you later.
Man, I'm trying to tease the sensibilities. But I'll go ahead and say this, all right? If I told you that there was something that it says, well, first let me ask you this question. Anybody know what baking soda is? What are some clever things that you can do with baking soda? Feel free to shout it out. What's some clever things you can do with baking soda? Clean up. Did you say gas? Brush your teeth. It eliminates odor. It does a lot of things. Put it on your battery, clean it up. I've asked so many people in so many locations what they can do with baking soda, and they never say what you can actually do, what it was made for. Baking. Don't think about what it is, think about what it does. If I told you there's something that was liquid that you can get to within 1 to 3 days, if I told you there was something that was safe, you could go to sleep and not wake up and you lost 30% of your principal. If I told you it was something that was very great, predictable tax-free rate of returns on average at 8 to 11%, and that it was tax-free, what would you call that? A miracle. It's life insurance, y'all. Now, here's the thing. I know some of you probably have a policy that was set up by somebody and they told you, hey, if you use life insurance, you can do this, that, and the third. But let me tell you this. Has anybody ever seen a Chrysler 300? I remember when I saw my first Chrysler 300, I was a kid, right? And me and my friends, like I told you, we grew up in a poor neighborhood. And whenever we saw a Chrysler 300 pass by, we would stop what we were doing. We would look at it pass by like, look at that car. It looks just like a Bentley. It looks just like a Bentley. And we would literally stop what we were doing and watch it pass by. Until one day I grew up. And not only did I see a Chrysler 300 and a Bentley parked right next to each other, they were both the same color and they were both back then. And it was at that very moment that I said a Chrysler 300 looks nothing like a Bentley. It's just a tool. A life insurance policy is just a tool. If you have a whole life policy, anybody, I want to tell you to write this down, but it might get too complicated. The way you figure out how much your money is making is you take the beginning value, you subtract it from the ending value, and then that difference you divide it by the beginning value, and that's what you get your percentage of return, whether negative or positive. If you have a whole life policy, take how many premiums you paid into it, then subtract it from what your available cash value is, and then whatever that difference is divided by how much you put into it, you will be shocked to discover that your money is earning less than 5%. And it's only 5% if you started the policy in your 30s and then cashed out in your 90s. So what I tell people to do is, have you ever heard of a 1035 exchange? Now, a lot of people have heard of a 1031 exchange. Whenever you make money on a property that you sell and then you transfer that money to the property, a 1035 exchange says, hey, anybody in here, if you have a policy that's not performing like I said it should perform, bring it to me. What I do is I create a better, properly structured policy. And the way the 1035 exchange works is I have to take what I created from you and what your old policy is, and I have to show it to my carrier, and I have to show it to your old carrier, and they both have to agree that what I made for you is better. So even if this might be some of y'all first time understanding that life insurance is how these wealthy families are doing it, what they're doing is they are, as soon as the baby turns 15 days old, they're putting policies on the baby, and then they're making the trust the beneficiary. And what happens is the family members all have access to it as long as they come, like I said, the equal opportunity. As long as they come every year and learn and share and gain knowledge and pay the money back, they have access to it for the rest of their lives. If any of your policies are not performing like I said, let me look at it. I'll show you how it should be. But to answer your question, what I do is we rip the Band-Aid off. We take that lump sum, we put it into a properly structured index universal life policy, not a life policy. Because the reason why I like index universal life is, the reason why that whole life is earning an aggregate of only 5% over 60 years is because the majority of the money that's coming is used to pay for the death benefit. Or the properly structured index universal life policy allows you to do, it allows you to switch the death benefit from increasing into perpetuity to level. So now your cost of insurance is only 1%, and then you get to keep the rest as that tax-free money that I'm talking about. It's 3 internal revenue codes: 7702, 101A, and 72E. 72E says as long as your money is in a vehicle that's considered a life insurance policy, it grows tax deferred. 7702 says as long as your money is considered a life insurance policy and you access it correctly, you get it tax-free. 101A says as long as your money is in something that's considered a life insurance policy, whatever you have in it will blossom to a larger number and pass to your family tax-free. Did that answer your question? All right, let's go deeper. The next generation. Oh yeah, then that last part, 101A. Because if you pass it on to them now, it's going to get taxed, right? Right? And what if you have them listed as beneficiaries? Whenever you have somebody listed as a direct beneficiary instead of having a trust as the intermediary, they can't stop the money. Does anybody know what that means? What if your family member, when you die, is going through bankruptcy, going through a divorce, or in a lawsuit? If they can't stop the money, as soon as they get that lump sum, that's automatically considered their money, and now that's a part of that lawsuit. So to answer your question, you look at Internal Revenue Code 101A. It allows you to go ahead and take care of the taxes on the seed today. Just like we were talking about, pay taxes on the seed instead of the crop. It allows everything to grow tax-free because, now you get to utilize money while you're alive instead of just waiting to die and leave your next generation a big lump sum. Now y'all get to take grand vacations. Now y'all get to do a bunch of stuff. Now you get to help them with their house, and it doesn't adversely affect you because the money is still there. You're borrowing against it, right? And then when it passes to the next generation, whatever you have left in there, it has to. It's called Tamra, Tefra, and Defra. Y'all say this: Tamra, Tefra, and Defra.
Tamra, Tefra, and Defra.
And I know what you're thinking. And no, that's not the names of the co-stars of the beloved 90s sitcom Moesha. Tamra, Tefra, and Defra was created when, in 1980, E.F. Hutton was the first person to bring this to the masses. The wealthy families had already been utilizing life insurance since the 1800s for their families. But in 1980, E.F. Hutton, a brokerage company, was the first company to bring it to the masses. When they brought it to the masses, there was a run on the banks. People were pulling out $500 million from their bank accounts and putting that big lump sum into life insurance policies. And that was causing a struggle with the financial institutions. And guess what? The IRS sued E.F. Hutton, and the IRS lost. And whenever the government loses, what they do? They change the rules. So what it is in order for them to keep it as being considered life insurance, by law, whatever you have left when you die, the life insurance company has to give them more in order for it to be considered life insurance. Because life insurance is meant to help your family replace the income that you were bringing in. So in my opinion, if that's something that you're looking to do, how to pass it to them, I would put it in a life policy. I would make a trust the beneficiary, and then I would have the money passed through them that way. And that way, because what you'll have is what's called a spendthrift clause. What a spendthrift clause means is, in this policy, even if they have bad debt, even if your beneficiaries are experiencing creditors, bad debt, and all that, they can't touch it. As long as the money is in a trust, they can access it however they please. Or you can set up in a trust where they can only get up to a certain amount. We call that the dead hand. It's a very morbid term, but it means you still get to control your family from the grave. Any other questions? Thank you for that question.
Not a question, but I'm going to jump in here so we can get the break. I want to thank you again, Mr. Randolph. And what's the date on that workshop? September 24th at Macon County, Tuskegee CDC. 11 a.m. What's the 24th? What day is that? 7? Tuesday? Well, let's talk about that.